So team, welcome to the implementation of Agile, or predominantly focusing on Agile testing using Visual Studio Online or team services, day one. So we have completed one orientation session, that's day before yesterday. Hope you all have got a chance to watch the video. Is anybody joining today directly? Not everybody got a chance to watch the video. At least did you get a chance to watch the video, Dilbar? All right, so yeah, please do watch it. That's the orientation, but a quick overview of that is like we're going to understand major things like this. So we'll be starting with introduction to Agile software development today. Before that, I need to bring it in the idea of the traditional software development lifecycle, and then we will see the Agile software development. Then what is the difference between these advantages, disadvantages of both, etc. And then I gave a little overview on the different roles of Agile, like product owner, Scrum Master, the Scrum team, etc. And then I gave a little bit of introduction to Scrum and other, what is a sprint is all about, but we will be discussing them in detail anyway. We will be discussing product backlog, user stories, sprint backlog, and we will be actually creating them in the Visual Studio Online. Then we'll also talk about the different ceremonies, like what is sprint planning, what is stand-up meetings that are going to happen on daily basis. And then we'll also talk about retrospection, sprint retrospection, how it's going to happen at the end of the sprint. So then we will go into the Visual Studio Online or team services. So this was just an overview of each of these in the orientation session, but each of these will be dealt in detail as we go. This is clear? All right. Anyone has any other expectations apart from this? Please do let me know so that if that can be covered, I will try to add it. So we just discussed these are the points. Now let's look at the traditional waterfall model because see, we need to understand, in order to understand the Agile development, first of all we need to be very clear on how the traditional waterfall model used to work and what are the different problems that we have faced with that. Even today, the waterfall model got invented about 30 years back. As far as I remember, it's 1970s. Even today, people are still using it. It's not that it's completely gone away. So that's why we need to understand that. And then what was the reason behind the invention of this Agile? How did it came? So that will be more clear. Fine, so let's try to take this more in detail, and then we will be able to discuss, or we will be slowly get into the Agile methodology. So don't go with these times whatever I have written. It's just from an Agile perspective written on the orientation day. So I'll say before even I say waterfall, just for the benefit of the people who are new to the thing, let's quickly touch upon the different SDLC phases. So these are the different SDLC phases. It will have requirement analysis, it will have design, and we used to do prototype for sure in lengthier projects, definitely with waterfall model. And then we used to go for coding or development, and then we used to do testing or stabilization, followed by UAT and implementation. So if we build a little bit more on each of these, requirement analysis was the phase. Somebody talked about business analyst also. So let me put that as well. Initial stage. So typically the old model, the classic model in which the projects used to be developed, there used to be an initial stage also. And in the initial stage, what used to happen is a business analyst. Some of you have brought this in the last class. So let me definitely add point of what he can do here. The business analyst interacts with the client or customer. Let's say there is somebody is looking for some software solution. There is a client or a customer who is looking for a software solution, and either he will approach to the company because your company is a very popular in the domain, or your business analyst, knowing that there is a customer who somebody is looking for a solution, he will approach the client. Either of the way, the business analyst will interact with the client or customer and capture the details in a document called, any idea? Anybody heard about before? What business analyst will prepare? A document called BRS. It stands for business, no, not SRS. Business requirement specification. SRS comes little later. So this is called BRS. And what typically the BRS consists of? Yeah, BRS or BRD, as Renuka is saying. So what this consists is, it consists like customer business scenarios or flows, and then different transactions, what customer does, and then it will have reporting details, how he's going to do all that. So more from a business perspective, where the business starts, how the business ends with the customer, what are the different transactions it will go through, who are the different departments will be connected. So that entire business flow is explained in the form of this, more of using business terminologies, not really any technical terminologies. It's purely from a business analyst perspective, whatever he understands from the business of the customer, he will document it. So that was the first phase. If you understand all these things, then you'll be able to appreciate how Agile is actually able to deliver quickly without all of these, or without some of these, or as again rightly somebody told in the last orientation, does Agile means less documentation? Yes, Agile is purely less documentation, but definitely it is not. It's not no documentation. We are not going to completely avoid the documentation, but we're going to make it less. So what is that less, where it is going to cut, and where it is going to give the time for the actual development, you'll be able to appreciate. So that's why I'm trying to spend all these details. So the initial stage is where the business analyst will interact with the client or customer, capture the details into a document called BRS, or business requirement specification. And typically what it contains is this. The next phase after this, once he captures all these things, then he'll forward it to the technical team. So hardly you'll find a few business analysts in a company, but there will be many technical teams with project manager and the teams, etc. So once he got it, he will identify the right team who has an experience into this domain, and then he will give those details to the project team. And initially, when only we have a BRD, it's just the project manager, dev manager or dev lead, dev manager and or sometimes both will be there, sometimes either of them will be there, test manager and or test lead. So these people will try to understand the BRS. So in my 14 years of experience, I got to look at twice the BRD, not more than that. I had to completely go through the BRD and then give my contribution. So it's not very natural that you always get every time you will expect a BRD and then you will get it. It's not a regular case. So now what happens during the requirements analysis is, so if you ask me then what we do here, let's also capture that. Dev and test, they used to provide a high level estimates, very high level estimates, like definitely with a plus or minus 30%, I would say, very high level estimates based on the BRS. So first of all, they used to review also, and if certain things are not clear, they used to understand and provide a high level estimates based on the BRS, like how much. Okay, we understand the requirements of the customer in terms of the BRS. We have not decided on what technology that we're going to go. We have not decided on the design. We have not decided on technology. We have not decided on what are the different layers in the system, like presentation layer, middle layer, and database layer. But we still have to tell something to the customer, how much time it will take for the project development and what is the cost it's going to incur, how many resources that we have to put it onto this particular project, etc. If the team already have an experience into this particular domain, then there's no doubt about it. So they will come up with some kind of close estimations. But the very first time, if the company is doing it for the first time, this kind of a project, obviously it will be plus or minus 30% of estimates. So that's the primary job of the development team and testing team. When I say dev and test, it's not that every test engineer will involve, hardly test lead. So any questions on the first one? Does anybody have any questions on the first one? So then comes the requirement analysis stage. So this is where the core project team will involve. So I'll just put it over here. We call it as a project team or a product team. And this term is going to be different in Agile. So project or product team. So from here onwards, it starts with them. So the first is requirement analysis stage. Here, PM. And when I say PM, is like project or product manager. Some companies call it as project manager, some companies call it as product manager, some companies used to call technical project manager, different roles. PM prepares the SRS, software requirement specification. And how does he prepare? Based on the BRS. For him, the input is BRS or BRD. So based on the BRD that we all have reviewed it, in fact, PM also will be there. It's not just about dev and test, to be frank. PM also is to be part of it. He also reviewed it, and he also provided his estimates. And we have gone and communicated to the client saying, hey, it's going to take 6 months to develop the project, so we'll give estimates back to the client in terms of time, budget, etc. So based on the estimates coming from the technical team, the business analyst will go and inform the client, yeah, the team is ready to take your project, and this will go take about 6 months of time, and it's going to cost you this much. I'll tell you all that. So there are highly chances based on the input that we give, there can be two chances. Customer might think, yeah, this is the better deal that I'm getting from this particular company. Customer is king in the market. He might have seen 2-3 companies, right? He might have got the quotation from 2-3 different places. And he see this is the company which is giving the best deal, so let me go with this, and then say, yes, I want to go ahead with the project. If he feels this quotation is high and he has found that somebody else is better, then he'll say, sorry, probably I may not give you, I won't be able to continue this project. So then this will not come into picture. So we are going with a happy scenario that, we got a project, and that's where we are starting with the next phase. So the next phase is the PM, or the project or product manager, prepares the SRS, software requirement specification, based on the PRA. SRS should cover two things. SRS covers both functional and non-functional requirements. So the SRS covers both functional and non-functional requirements. What is functional requirement? Suppose any product, any system that you wanted to develop, what you're going to validate in terms of whether it is working properly or not with respect to functionality. Suppose you are developing an e-commerce system, and typically whether I'm able to search through different products that are available. First of all, as a customer, I may be able to register or not, log into the system or not, search different products, add it to shopping cart, do the shopping, make the payment. So there's more of functional requirements. We also do take care of non-functional requirements like load, performance, security. Security is no more non-functional, to be frank, because security has become a default thing to check. Nowadays, most of the applications are web applications and they are error-prone applications, so security becomes a default. With respect to functionality itself, you have to ensure that the system is secure. But we have other non-functional things like load, performance, stress, how long the system can run continuously. What if we apply heavy load on the system? Whether it is going to be serving the customers or it's going to crash out. So we'll check all that. So the SRS covers both functional as well as non-functional requirements. And typically it's a document. Okay, people also call it as SRD, software requirement document. Some people only call it as FS. Heard of this term FS? It's only functional specification. But as I told you, it covers both functional and non-functional. So I'm not in the favor of using the word only FS, because anyway you're going to explain non-functional requirements. So it's better to call it as SRS, software requirement specification, which covers both. So then what's going to happen is this SRS is going to be given to both developers and testers at the same time. Then dev and test will review the SRS and provide comments back to the PM if there are any. When you're actually reviewing it, what we majorly look for is whether this document is complete or not, whether all the requirements are captured or not. That's one thing that we're going to look. We look for correctness, like if there are any things that needs to be fixed in the document, we'll give it as feedback to the PM. hey, this particular section, I don't think this requirement is correct. What customer told, what is mentioned in BRS is not matching to what you're saying in SRS. They are talking about two different things. So correctness, and then also completeness. Also consistency, very important. Like in the same document, in one section it's talking about one format of a report or a date. In other section it's talking about a different format. So there is no consistency. That leads to a lot of confusion or ambiguity, and developers will take it in one way, testers will take it in one way, and actually customer is expecting something else. So it will create definitely problems. So for that, these are the things that you're going to review during your document SRS. Any questions in any of these words when I say completeness, correctness, consistency? They are very simple, straightforward. Things like, you look for whether everything is covered or not, and then you look for the correctness, there are no mistakes, and then the requirements are consistent, explained consistently across all the sections of it. Right? So then we have, let's say whoever founds any issues, they can go log those issues on the FS and inform the project manager. It's a responsibility of the project manager or product manager to fix them. If he has a clarity, he will fix it. If he has to get any clarity, he will go talk to client, and then there are certain other things also you need to capture out here. Client was into picture only during the BRS discussion. After the BRS discussion is over, once the BRS is finalized, now client is on his own job and we are on the job of doing this. Only when there is a need. It could be, let's say BRS completion might have taken about a month. If you also put the timelines, right? Typically the BRS itself used to take, the initial stage itself used to take a month or so. This typically goes for a month. And after that, once a customer approves, go ahead with the project. When we start, we'll do all this, and we will involve customer only when there is a, so I would write that also, we'll contact the customer only if there is any major need or details are required. For that also we used to pre-planly set up a meeting with him for half an hour, 1 hour, and then discuss, hey, you have given this requirement, but can you please little bit provide more details about it, etc., etc. So only when there is a need, we used to go to him in the waterfall model or the traditional model. We used to send out emails and everything, but we used to set up the meetings only very occasionally, once in 15 days or once in 1 month, like that. Okay, once the document becomes complete, correct, and consistent from everybody's point of view, developer point of view, tester's point of view, of course the PM perspective, there is one more role also that involves in every project is called support engineer. So support team point of view. Support team is the one who takes care of your environments, basically. Taking care of the building of the software, generate the builds and environment. So once that team also comfortable in terms of requirement, then we used to send it to the client. So send the SRS to the client for review. His review is very important because the traditional model was a very lengthy model. It used to take almost 6 months for development of a project minimum to sometimes 1 year, sometimes 2 years. So it is better to get a review from the customer and get a sign off from him. Otherwise things can go wrong at the end. Customer might say, no, I have not expected this. I don't know what you guys have developed. This is what not I've expected. And this is totally waste of my money. You can use any word. So what we should do is we should send the SRS to client for review, and client reviews and provide comments. If certain things that is not covered is what he is expecting, definitely he will ask, hey, I have told you about this requirement in the report, this requirement in the sales module, but yeah, it's not covered. So it is a responsibility of the customer because he is paying the money for it. He has to spend some time and review and provide the comments back. Only when you understand all these things right, you will be able to better appreciate the agile, how better effectively that we are able to do with the client or customer. But a quick check, is audio clear? Again, I just got a message saying there's a degrade audio quality and kind of stuff. Is everybody able to hear properly? So each of the points that I'm writing over here, please do understand from a waterfall perspective or the classical SRS, the development lifecycle perspective, and we'll turn these into how effectively we are doing it in Agile. So we send this SRS to client for a review, client reviews and provide the comments that if there are any mismatch in the requirements of what he is expecting or what we are captured. If everything is fine, then he will sign off the SRS or SRD by client. Actually, before we go to client, we even get the sign off from development team, testing team, support team, but by client is the most important. It's like an agreement that we are making. Okay, this is what we are going to develop and this is what you are going to accept it. So there will be a clear, again, literally whatever the words that I'm using will have a replacement for that in Agile. For example, here we are saying the SRS client reviews and confirms and say, yes, this is what I'm going to accept it. So when we go into Agile, how, if I just quickly turn it and say what is going to happen in Agile, we are not going to write such a big lengthy SRS documents. Rather, we are going to write a small user stories there. We'll practice by writing 1 or 2 user stories as well. So we'll write it as in the form of user stories, and the user story will clearly explain something called acceptance criteria. When my client or customer is going to accept after implementation of the user story. So there was nothing called SRS or FS. Yes. So once we understand this, once we throw this model a little bit aside, we will purely delve into the Agile, and then we will practice each of them. So I'm in the process of taking you all from the waterfall to there. I know some of you are already familiar with this, but especially the wordings, the statements that I'm trying to use, please focus on it so that when we actually discuss Agile, it will be more of easy to understand. Okay, I'm still not started, but I'm just trying to give an example. So this will be converted into the form of a user story, and that user story will have an acceptance criteria. All right. So definitely I will be giving the examples of that, no doubt. Any questions so far? Anyone has any questions so far? And typically, if you consider the timelines, depending on the complexity of the project, this phase might take a month or 2 months. If you consider some 8-10 months of project, this used to take about minimum a month or 2 months. Then comes a design phase of the life cycle. The first people who will come into picture here is the designing team. If there is no separate designing team, development team itself will come up with high-level design. We used to call it as HLD, and low-level design called LLD. High-level design is something like this. At very high level, for example, they will decide that, okay, our system going to have at high level 3 layers. There will be one presentation layer through which the customers will be interacting, and then we will have one middle layer where we'll do the business logic validations, and then there will be a database layer where we actually store the information that whatever customer is sending. At a high level, it's going to be a 3-layer architecture. Since we need to serve thousands of people, we're going to have more than one middle layer as a service. Our server middle layer is going to be hosted on more than one server, and they will have a intelligent algorithm to serve the customers. Like, if the first request is coming, we'll go to the first one, then second is coming to second, third one is coming to third, fourth one will wait, and whoever completes first, it will go, something like that, kind of a design of an algorithm. And then we will have a database layer, which is typically SQL Server or Oracle, whatever it is. So at a very high level, this is going to be the architecture of the system. You pick up any system today, you will have minimum of these 3 layers: presentation layer or UI, middle layer, and database layer. So they will come up with this, and they will also prepare a low-level design. In low-level design, they will explain each and everything. Like in middle layer, how does the business validations are going to happen? Is it going to be through some workflow engine, or we are going to build some logic in the database? How this is going to happen? Is it through some stored procedure or a trigger that we want to build, or is it going to be a database validation? So they'll go more details about each and every component. For example, when a customer tries to search for a particular item, how we are going to handle it. When he's actually making payments, how we are going to handle it. So the entire detailed design will be happening. And both of these will be done by either designing team or the development team itself. Any questions on this? Okay, so once this is done, now what we're going to do is the test team. Any idea what the test team used to do? Or what are the responsibilities of the test team during this time? Anil has a question. Do we get any presentation for later review? Yes, all these videos will be available for you. Dilbar says it can start on function libraries. No, I'm not going into the next phase as such, but in this phase, do you know what? A test team is going to do it. So this is what I talk about development team, right? Development team or design team. Preparing test cases is what Nagavina is saying. But yeah, primarily saying we do something called test plan. So this is the right time for not really for test scenarios, not really for test cases, but it is a time for test plan. You just got the requirements of the system and you got parallelly design is also happening or happened, then it is the right time for the testing team to have the test plan, right? So what test team is going to do is test team prepares the master test plan. Master test plan, we call it as MTP. Some people do this part of the test plan, some people do it separately. Test strategy. You also need to have a strategy on how you're going to do the testing. I'm not going into the details of master test plan, but you might have heard about this, and then typically what it used to cover is, now that we have the clarity on the requirements of the project, design of the project, so the testing team used to come up with a detailed test plan. What is the objective of this project? What is the scope? What we're going to cover in this testing? What we're not going to cover in this testing? I'll just put for the sake of the people who are not aware of it. It used to cover the objective of the testing, the scope. When there's a scope, it used to cover in scope and out of scope. What we are testing, what we are not testing. It's not that you test everything in the world. For example, with respect to portability or compatibility, there are so many browsers in the market. There are so many operating systems in the market. It's not that you're going to test in each and everything, every operating system and browser. What your clients are looking for. Let's say they are looking for a Windows 10 and a Mac and a Unix, and you're going to look it on Safari, Internet Explorer, and Google Chrome. You're going to test only on those things. You're not going to really test. So that's what you're going to cover in scope and out of scope. Then what activities the test team is going to do, what are the deliverables that the test team is going to give, and then any resources that we need, any hardware and software that we need. We used to explain in the test plan in detail. Why I'm again going into the subtopics is if somebody thinks that Agile is no documentation and we don't write a test plan, it's not correct. So to avoid that, the assumption, I'm also touching upon the test plan. We do test plan in Agile, but we do it in a slightly different way. We don't do it for every single release. Rather, we do it as a whole for a project, and for the upcoming sprints and the remaining sprints and all, we generally don't do it. So there is a slightly different way of doing it. So I'll talk about that as soon as we get into the Agile. But test plan is still there. Even in Agile, people do test plan. If somebody thinks that Agile is no documentation and no test plan, it's not correct. Hardware and software needed. You will also prepare with something called schedule. When are you going to start your testing? When are you going to complete your testing? How many cycles you're going to do it? Then what is your automation tool or strategy that you're going to use? And what is your test management and defect management tool that you're going to use? We will also explain defect categorization. Lot of times a confusion arises between development team, testing team, and other teams like, is this a severity 1 problem or severity 2 problem? The defect that you raised is, I don't think it's a very complex problem, it's a severity 3 problem. So there is always a confusion arises. it is always recommended to put the categorization in the master test plan. What is severity 1? What is severity 2? When you're going to log it as severity 3 and 4, those definitions needs to be part of this. So that tomorrow when you log a bug, if someone says it's not a severity 1 or 2, we can actually tell them this is according to the definition that I have created in my master test plan and which you all agreed. After this, actually, we are going to send it for a review and the people will sign it off. So it's basically towards that. And as I said, all these things are going to go definitely into Agile, but at very a project level. When we start with ones, we'll do this. Then we have the other activities like what is your exit criteria? When will you say that you are done with the testing? And this exit criteria is going to be slightly different in Agile. So the traditional model, what we used to do is we used to say no severity 1 issues. Rather, I would say this should be 0, and definitely no severity 2 issues. Nobody used to sign if there are severity 2 issues, but sometimes we used to even sign off if there are less than or equal to few number. This is in my case, and it is differs from project to project, and it is differs from client to client. So you would say any number of say 4 issues. So this was the sign-off criteria that we used to follow in my product, like no save 1s, no save 2s. 7 and save 2 are like critical issues. There should not be any, but there can be some less than or equal to 5 of severity 3 with the decision that we're going to fix them in the upcoming releases. So in Agile, we're going to call them as sprints. So if you can give a confirmation that in the next sprint you're going to take it up these, then probably this sign-off criteria will holds good. And any number of severity 4 issues. Severity 4 issues are generally the...
Shankar, sorry, this is Kartik. Can you look at my message on chat, please? I sent
Sure.
Chat.
Sure.
Sorry.
All right. So these are the difficult activities, the different things that are going to happen in the test plan. Okay. So as we all know, this is the deliverable in the design phase of the life cycle. So let's look at the remaining phases tomorrow. I know I'm going into more details into this waterfall model, but as you all know, at every stage I'm trying to explain how it is going to be different in Agile so that you all can clearly able to differentiate how it is going to happen in waterfall and how it is going to happen in Agile. So I'll just have a pause it here. Tomorrow we'll continue with the remaining phases of this life cycle. So we just dealt with initial phase, requirement phase, and design. Then we look at coding, testing, and other stuff, and what kind of differences will be in waterfall and Agile. Sorry for the delay that I've started today. There was a small confusion in the timing, and it's from my side. So please look at the email and then join according to that. I think only tomorrow we have this difference in the time, but after that we'll be able to take it in the regular time. All right. So with that. I'll pause it here. See you tomorrow. Have a good morning or good evening or good night wherever you're from. Thank you.